are on page 34. We're just finishing up Siman Bet of the Shulchan Aruch, the second section of Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim. This is b'Masechet Berachot. You see Chaf Aleph over here, 21. B'Masechet Berachot, in Tractate Berachot, Daf 2, not 2, but Tet Vav. You see, Tet Vav. Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan said, "Harotzeh is someone who wishes shikabel alav, to accept upon himself all malchut shamayim, the yoke of heaven, shlema, in completely in its entirety." So this is what he has to do if someone wants to completely accept all malchut shamayim. Yifneh, he should go to the bathroom. The word yifneh, yipaneh, means to make room. You know, when you want to make room, you want to clear out a room, you say lefanot et hacheder, to clear out the room. I mean, yifneh means to clear out your body of any waste. V'yitol yadav, and you should wash your hands. V'yaniach tefillin, you should put on tefillin. V'yikra kriyat shema, and you should pray shema. V'yitpalel, and you should say the tefillah, the Shemona Esrei. V'zohi malchut shamayim shlema. This is considered a complete malchut shamayim, a complete acceptance of the yoke of heaven. It's very interesting. If you would ask me, what is it that you need to do in order to reach a level of accepting all malchut shamayim, and go to the bathroom is one of them. But it seems to be this is an order. The order of Chazal feels very important, to take care of your body, to be physically clean inside of your body. Not just physically clean, but also calm. To not have to rush anywhere, not to go anywhere, to not, it says the person who prays when he needs to go to the bathroom, so not only does he not count for prayer, but Hashem rejects his tefillah. It's called the tefillah me'usa. It's a disgusting tefillah system for Hashem. So it's important to go to the bathroom, to wash your hands, put on tefillin, pray. Amar Rabbi Chia bar Abba. Rabbi Chia, the son of Abba, says, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. So again, who said the first saying? Yeah, who's saying the second saying? Rabbi Chia bar Abba, but from the name of Rabbi Yochanan. I mean, this could either mean that he said, listen, I was by Rabbi Yochanan, and Rabbi Yochanan said it like this, or this could mean, this like Rabbi Yochanan talked about this topic a lot, and this is another thing that he said. Yeah, it could contradict, it could not contradict. It doesn't seem here that it's going to be contradicting. There's kol hanifneh, someone who goes to the bathroom, v'notel yadav, and washes his hands, u'miniach tefillin, and puts on tefillin, v'koreh kriyat shema, and he says shema u'mitpalel, and he prays, ma'aleh alav hakatuv. This is an expression that means the Torah considers him keilu, as if bana mizbeach, he built a mizbeach, he built the altar in the Beit HaMikdash, v'hikriv alav korban, and he sacrificed a sacrifice on it. You'll find this very often, this term ma'aleh alav hakatuv. If you do this, the verse will consider you as if you did that. You know where else we found this? Remember we were saying why a person should say korbanot in the morning? I don't know, do we use the same word there?
I don't think so.
Actually, no, I took it off. It's a good question. Because essentially what you're going to find here, there's got to be something deeper to this than just, this is what you do to become Malchut. It's a good question you're asking. We have time today to do it, so why not? It seems pretty simple, that's what you have to do. But the question is why, what is the connection to this and Yirat Shamayim? Maybe it's defining something about Yirat Shamayim that we don't know until now. This would be a classic example of finding something deeper, and it could come to real foundations in Judaism, at least according to Rabbi Yochanan. Let's see, 2. Well, there we go. Oh, so you know where this is going from. If you go look at Masechet No, page 29. Look here at the Shulchan Aruch. We ended off, the Ramah said something at the end, and remember we didn't what does that have to do with anything? And this is really going, Rabbi David Yosef is going on this Ramah. See the Ramah on page 29? The last one, it says Haga. It's on the top of the page of V'yargil. The first, V'yargil atzmo. The person should make himself accustomed, lifnot boker v'erev, to go to the bathroom morning and evening. Shehu zrizut v'nikiyut. This teaches you how to be speedy, and how to be clean. So this is right in the category of you shouldn't be arrogant. You should cover your head. You shouldn't walk barefoot, and you should go to the bathroom. Maran himself says tivdok nekevav. You should check yourself if you need to go to the bathroom. The Ramah says not just check yourself, but you should go in the morning and the evening. Assumingly if you need to, right? Not if you don't need to. There's no mitzvah to find a way to go, right? There's a way. Give it a few years, and some Jews will start coming up with all kinds of pills that they can go in the morning and the night, right? Now, but essentially, this is being based off of the Maran and the Ramah, what he's saying here. And they're getting it from Masechet Brachot, because if you open up the Gemara, you'll find on the left-hand side of the page that when Rabbi Yochanan says this, it says, look at the Tur and the Shulchan Aruch, who both bring it down as a halakha. Interestingly enough, the Rambam doesn't. The Rambam doesn't, which is going to be interesting why he doesn't. But let's see here what Rashi tells us, if anything. Dream is of owning this whole set. But this is a commentary, explanations, of the first 17 pages of Masechet Brachot. The whole Talmud is 135 volumes in this edition.
Wow.
It's like the
whole library.
They basically saw Art Scroll and said, we're going to outdo you guys big time. And they did. Like what is...
So it's like included all Mufashim? Or it's
No, it's very interesting. What it does is... It follows, the first part of it follows the Art Scroll model, which is, it gives you like the original text of the Talmud. Then it gives you the second half, the original text, translated into simple Hebrew and broken down. The Gemara asks, the Gemara enters, like the Art Scroll does, although it's in Hebrew. It has all the notes on the bottom, kind of like the Art Scroll, all the random explanations you would need. But that's where the Art Scroll ends. What this has is right after that, it has a commentary on all of Rashi. Every Rashi in the book, it takes it and translates into Hebrew. Then all the Tosfot in the book. Every one of the Tosfot it takes, and it breaks down into Hebrew so you can understand it. Then after that, they have what's called the Yalkut Biurim, which is they took all the commentaries, and instead of giving them all to you, they just took excerpts. This line, this commentary, this line, this commentary. So you have all the commentaries in order on the right place. You don't have to look in different books. Then they have, that's a long part of the book. Then they have a part where they take topics and they go in depth. And the next part is they take it and they go each one in halacha, where it takes you. Basically, if you want to learn Gemara right, this would be the way to go. And then in the back it has Musar and Chassidut that you can take out of each page of the Gemara. So my dream is to own this set. I just spoke to my wife. We're going to start working on it. But it's 135 volumes. So B'ezrat Hashem, God willing, we'll get there. Well, I don't know I know, that's the thing. You're going to keep it. But B'ezrat Hashem, one at a time.
We'll pick up your neighbors.
Right, exactly. In any case, I conveniently have the first 17 pages, which is exactly what we're looking for. We're looking for, the Gemara tells us that the way to get a complete Ol Malchut Shamayim, says Rabbi Yochanan, is to go to the bathroom, to wash your hands, to say Panat Tefillin, Kriyat Shema, and Shmoneh Esrei. So what Moshe Chaim is asking is, either there's something really deep here, we're trying to, what is Yirat Shamayim? Or there's something really deep about these things that are being done, but something has to be more than what meets the naked eye. So, let me just, give me a minute.
Other expression of Yirat Shamayim,
No.
or what?
Sure, there's a kingdom of heaven. What the kingdom of heaven is, what is the kingdom, and heaven. God is the entire universe.
Yeah, so when I say I accepted Malchut Shamayim, what?
For me, when I accept Malchut Shamayim, I say God is the boss, he's on the show. That's Malchut Shamayim.
Yeah, it's understandable.
They know that's my
I
understanding.
suppose
you know.
there is something deeper.
I'm sure there's deeper. Everything in Judaism, there's tons and tons of commentaries. No, there's a lot of commentaries. And I'm preparing tonight I was preparing all day for my class tomorrow about rabbinical disputes, and how they go to. And the rare basketball correspondence and so on. And you see that, everything got more than just that. One month.
I'm really looking forward to tomorrow night.
What?
I'm really looking forward to tomorrow night.
Yeah, we're putting together some. Hopefully, it'll be a really exciting evening.
The topics themselves sounded very interesting.
Thank God we worked. We sat down and won good stuff. My father's class, the most exciting class to mine, about how matzahs became square and hard. Yeah, Baruch Hashem. And you think like, oh, come on, Pesach passed, you're still talking about matzahs, but guess what? You have to talk about it because it's part of what happens in Judaism.
It's part of illustrating that everything is good. So, you can take any subject, Shabbat, where is sunset, where is sunrise, what are disputes, And but those are not affecting your daily life. But matzah, why do I do that?
The students of Rabbeinu Yonah here are saying something interesting. They say that really, what's the part of being mekabel malchut shamayim, accepting Hashem's kingdom? That's putting on tefillin, which is like submitting your body to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then Shema is your heart, your soul, your mind. And Shema is completely immersing yourself in godliness. So the question, that's a nice thing to say, but so what does that have to do with going to the bathroom and washing your hands? So they say that actually the only reason that washing your hands, go to the bathroom is part of it, is that you remove any distractions before you enter that. If you try to serve Hashem and every 10 minutes you have to go to the bathroom, take off tefillin, wash your hands, you're going to reach a point where you're not actually connecting to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So on the most simple level, the Pshat, this is Talmidei Rabbeinu Yonah, they're saying that those are only to set the standard. When you go to work, you want to sit down for 3 hours office, so you'll do everything you need. You'll make your coffee, you'll get your papers, you'll sit down at your desk, and that way you don't have to get up for the next 2 hours.
Exactly.
So,
go to a meeting.
Right, like people do this all the time. You make sure that all the things you put your phone on silent, you're getting yourself prepared. Some say, and I've seen this in halacha, that actually part of preparing yourself for Tefillah today does involve turning off your phone, does involve getting your mind out of certain things, does involve not doing certain things before Tefillah. It used to be like the rabbi say, don't eat before Tefillah. Some say that maybe you shouldn't check your emails before Tefillah. Now, I'm not convinced that you're allowed to make new gzerot. But the idea is there. The idea is that if you want to come and not be distracted, all of us, myself included, sometimes in the middle of Tefillah, your wife calls you, I need a ride to work, right? So what do? You're going to ignore it? Okay, so we're not living yet in Gan Eden. But there are things, part of being mekabel ol malchut shamayim, to reach that place of ol malchut shamayim, is to remove all the distractions from your life that could keep you away from. I remember when I was in yeshiva. You weren't allowed to own anything. You had a room, it was like bricks, and a bed, and a closet, and you didn't have a phone. You weren't allowed to have a radio. You weren't allowed to have an alarm clock if it had a radio in it. You weren't allowed to have a laptop, no internet access, no MP3 players, no iPods, nothing. Baltimore. The only electrical appliances we could own were light bulbs and air conditioners, right? And even the light bulbs, you didn't bring your own lamps. The lamps in the yeshiva, they give you a big roof and a small lamp that goes next to your bed. And at 10:30 they close the first one, and at 11 they close the second one, and you can like it or not, but it's dark out there. And you go to sleep. So you don't have distractions. It was the only time in my life, even when I was learning for smicha, I didn't learn as much. It's the only time in your life you have nothing in the world to do except for learning, except for praying. I don't know if you've ever done that before. 3 months not check your emails. That's like 3 months not to answer a phone call.
25 hours is very nice.
25 hours is very nice, right? I tell you, we used to go from Sukkot until Pesach, with the exception of Chanukah and Purim. We got up for Shabbat. You were in yeshiva all day long, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, learning until 10 o'clock at night. And guess what? So now you finished for the day. You have till 10:30. What are you going to do? You're going to go check your, listen to music? No, you're going to sit down and learn for another half an hour. That's going to be your extra. And then you're going to go home. It's just a completely different experience. Some would say it's very cultish and brainwashing and it's in its mentality. But I think that you're removing all the distractions from your life.
And the yeshiva is far away from the city, so there's no noise from the ambulances.
Right. But I think most yeshivas, they strive to create such an environment. Right. Actually, parents, and I'm going to tell this to Barry when as soon as Itai goes, but parents who try to get their kids, rights in yeshiva, they do their children a disservice. Right. Like, my son needs to have this because if not, he's going to die. I don't know, whatever. What you're doing is you're setting him up for failure. I remember Rabbi Tendler, when he would come to ask, I want to take my kid out for dinner. You're Rav Tendler's brother. So most of the time he would say yes. Like, he flew all the way from California to take him out. But there were parents from Baltimore. Oh, it's his birthday. Oh, it's his sister's graduation. And he would say, I can let him go. But why would you want to do that to your son that every other night you're taking him out of yeshiva for a different reason?
We tried to take him to Gilad wedding.
My brother's wedding, he let me off for 2 nights. The night before, the night of the wedding, and the night after the wedding. I had to come back to yeshiva, finish the yeshiva, and fly back for the last Sheva Bracha. But that's crazy. 2 tickets? Yeah, or you could buy 1 and just not come back. That was his attitude, right? But essentially, we have to teach ourselves, you can't live your whole life like that. It's not, we're not isolationists in Judaism. But at least part of your life should have quiet. When you come to tefillah, it should be quiet. When you come to learn, nothing else should bother you. Nothing else should bother you. I was reading about Chacham Ovadia Yosef. I got this new book that actually Jack suggested I buy, and I bought it. Did you get your book about Rabbi Ovadia Yosef?
Did I get my book?
About Rabbi Ovadia Yosef?
Oh, no, I didn't get the book.
Oh, so I ordered it.
You ordered it?
Yeah, I ordered it because of you. You sent me an email, and someone else sent me an email. Like, Hashem, you clearly want me to own this book.
Yes, right.
And you want to know Hashgacha Pratis story? I went to go buy it, and then I must have filled out some survey once upon a time when I got an Art Scroll book, and they sent me a $10 coupon. Mamash 5 minutes before I bought the book. $10 off. So I got my shipping was free, and a little bit of the book was knocked out. So
Wow.
it was I got a good buy. That book I suggested. I haven't read it. I haven't read the whole thing. I've looked through it. I suggest you buy it. They have things in there that I have not seen in any book of Rabbi Ovadia Yosef. Like personal stuff, things from his house, things from his family, some incredible things. His son, they have in there, his son has a napkin. When Rabbi Ovadia Yosef, he resigned from Beit Din because he felt they weren't acting properly. So he wrote it on a napkin and gave it to the head of the Beit Din, I'm leaving. And they still have that napkin that he resigned his post. And like crazy things they have in there. His commentary in the Talmud that he started writing when he was 9. Yeah, they have it at Harayot, on the they give you a photocopied page of it. You can see Rabbi Ovadia Yosef and his artwork and all the incredible things. So what was in there? Rabbi Ovadia Yosef was known. I was by him. He doesn't notice that you're there. He lived in a different realm. Right? He was there learning. You always hear those about tzaddikim, like they were learning. They didn't know. He really didn't know anybody was there. There are videos of the prime minister coming in. And the prime minister doesn't come in alone. It comes the whole entourage with cameramen. And Rabbi Ovadia Yosef is learning, and the prime minister comes over and puts on his hand, and Rabbi doesn't even know he's there. He doesn't know he's there.
I did to my wife almost get
Rabbi Ovadia Yosef had to be, the prime minister, shalom aleichem, and he would shake his head. And it was an incredible thing. And actually at his eulogies, Benjamin Netanyahu said about Rabbi Ovadia that whenever he would come in, he would wait. And this asked him, why do you wait for him? I mean, you're the prime minister. Come on, no, you don't wait for anybody else. You're waiting for this fanatical, Sepharadic, extremist rabbi from Har Nof. And he said, Rabbi Yosef said, he said it was very moving because Benjamin Netanyahu, is not exactly a yeshiva boy, but he knows something, he appreciates, he values something. He said he's writing the continuation of the tradition of Israel. So how can I interrupt him? I'm just the prime minister. That's what he said. It was something very, very special. When Shimon Peres was very good friends with Rabbi Ovadia, they were very close friends. In their worldviews, very different. But Shimon Peres and Rabbi Ovadia, Shimon Peres was one of the last people to be with Rabbi Ovadia Yosef before he passed away. Rabbi Ovadia he held his hand, and then he kissed him on the head. And he said that he felt like he was kissing the crown of the Jewish people. That's what Shimon Peres said at his funeral. This is a person who, as much as he may have been controversial about all kinds of things, the world really respected him. And he really didn't get interrupted ever. And here's the problem. I read last night a beautiful story that one of his kids said. That when he was dating his wife, so she was all excited, she was going to marry a Ben Torah, she was her thing, right? And everyone knows that part of the story. What they don't know is that Rabbi Ovadia Yosef became very close with his father-in-law. And he used to learn a lot. His father-in-law was a big Talmid Chacham. Actually, his father-in-law, also most people don't know, after the shidduch, when they got married, the father-in-law made a chavruta for Rabbi Ovadia Yosef with Rabbi Mordechai Sharabi. Rabbi Mordechai Sharabi was the chief Yemenite Kabbalist of Israel. He was, not just for the Yemenites, but he was like the Kabbalist in Israel at the time. And Rabbi Ovadia Yosef learned with him. Rabbi Mordechai Sharabi. Famous person. You've definitely seen a picture of him before. I would say old man, white beard, kippah, but that's everybody else too. So he would always come to learn with his father-in-law. He would come on a date, but then he would end up sitting down with his father-in-law and learning. And one day he comes in, and his father-in-law says, I would love for you to come talk to me. You're more than welcome to come sit with me. But Margalit, she doesn't want to see you anymore. So what do you mean? He said, she wants to call off the shidduch. And everybody said, what do you mean call off the shidduch? What kind of thing? What did I do? What happened? He said, listen, you come all the time, and you come to see her, and instead of seeing her, you come talk to me the whole time learning. He said, that's very rude. She finds it very offensive that you're spending so much time talking to me and not talking to her. And so Rabbi said, I'm not calling off the shidduch. Please let her come talk to me privately. They went to the room, and they sat down, and half an hour later, Margalit comes out. She's smiling ear to ear. And I don't know if it was half an hour, really. I don't know how long they were in there for. And the parents said, what happened? She said, we're getting married. What do you mean getting married? You just told us you wanted to call it off. We just told him. And she said, listen, he came to speak to me. He said, first off, that halachically, he doesn't think that we should spend so much time together because we're not married yet. And he doesn't think that there's a reason in halakha to be spending so much alone time together. Yeah? And he explained it to me, and I think he makes sense. And the second thing is, he said the reason why he learned so much is because one day he wants to write books, and he wants to send them out to the Jewish people, and really influence the Jewish people in a big, big way. And he said that if I marry him, he promises that half of his chuyot, half of his merits, he's going to give to me. He's sharing them equally with me. He said, and that, I'm ready to live with. And she married him after that story. But they say that from that date, she always, and this is against halakha, by the way, against halakha, a wife has to call her husband by his name, not by any titles, they're supposed to be equals. The Chazon Ish has a long letter about this. But she, for the rest of her life, always referred to him as Harav Ovadia, even privately. From when they were young, always Harav Ovadia, because she realized that he was a really great person. So why am I telling you about all this? I think we're so far removed from living in a place where nobody can bother us. We don't even understand what it's like. Be 5 minutes that we're dedicated to undivided attention. We don't give anything undivided attention anymore. I'm speaking to myself too. How often can I sit somewhere and and then someone buzzes in my pocket, it's buzzing on my phone, it's beeping on my computer, whatever it is that's going on. So even if you know when you feel like a tzaddik, I'm not going to answer that phone call. Suddenly you feel like a tzaddik, and then 2 months later you call me back because you just can't be a tzaddik for that long, right? That's what happens. But we live in a world where we're so distracted, and part of accepting Ol Malchut Shamayim is to not be distracted and just to be focused on HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I want to look at these other commentaries. But I want to do this first, and maybe if we have time, we'll go back to see some of these guys afterwards.
Basically, accepting Malchut Shamayim means
undivided,
a certain amount of time I'm in Malchut Shamayim.
Right, and just in Malchut Shamayim. I mean, if you notice, he doesn't call it accepting Malchut Shamayim. He calls it accepting Malchut Shamayim Shlema, completely. It's like a higher level than just Ol Malchut Shamayim is the guy who comes, he prays. He's accepting Ol Malchut Shamayim. But that's not all he's doing. He's somewhere else also. Okay. Now, ומכאן יש ללמוד, from here one should learn, שצריך אדם, that a person has to לבדוק עצמו, check himself, I'm speaking about it, קודם התפילה, before תפילה, אם הוא צריך לנקבה, if he needs to go to the bathroom. איך קוראים לזה? לנקבה? נקבה? לנקבה?
נקב זה חור.
אבל איך אומרים את זה ברבים?
נקבה.
נקבה? כדי שיהיה גופו נקי בשעת קריאת שמע ותפילה, so that his body can be clean when he prays, when he reads קריאת שמע or he prays. Now this is interesting. I remember there's a Mishnah Bura who talks about this. You don't have to go to the bathroom twice a day. You just should check before you pray in the morning and before you pray in the evening. Just check that you need to go to the bathroom. You don't actually have to go. Practically. Again, we said that halakha is a great tool, but sometimes people can become obsessed with the details and they're gonna, like we said, they'll force themselves to go to the bathroom. You don't have to force. It doesn't say you have to. It just says that if you need to, you should. Don't wait till after tefillah. Do it before. It's more important to go to the bathroom and pray than to pray with the minyan and then go to the bathroom. So if you say, like, if I go to the bathroom now, I'm gonna miss minyan. I'm gonna come to shul, but I'll be late. It's better to come late. It's better to go to the bathroom than to come late. That's the calculation that comes first. Jack, this is such great preparation for the next section. I didn't even know this was at the end over here. The next section, this is not even bad compared to what we're going to do next.
They're already talking about the next.
No, we're at the end of Siman Bet. Look at this.
So there is a transition.
Slowly but surely. Well, if you look, the last words of the Shulchan Aruch in section 2 in the Ramah are about going to the bathroom.
Really?
And then so the first words of section 3 are about how to go to the bathroom.
So how do you know? Okay, I'm just thinking maybe it's really part of the third chapter.
Right. So he clearly splits it up here, but there seems to be some kind of flow here.
That's a good one.
Oh no. Okay. I have to be careful over here. A person should accustom himself nikavav, to clear himself, morning and night. Shehu zrizut, this is alacrity, it teaches you speed, how to be speedy. Unkiyut, and cleanliness. Why do you think they tell people to go twice a day? Why not whenever you need?
At least twice a day.
Well, that's for sure. So many of you need in the middle of the day also then, right? Think about where you go to the bathroom before you had a bathroom. Outside and somewhere far, not in your backyard because you don't want to be going there, right? So it was a process. You had to plan out when you're going to end up by the bathroom. It's like go to the grocery store. You plan out when you're going to be there because when you need something. So you're going to plan out when you go to the bathroom. So the question is, if that's true, so maybe I don't have to check twice a day, because today it's in my house. I have the 2 of them. So why do I need to go? I don't need to go. So I don't need to go in the morning. I go whenever I need to, because the reason has changed. So the halakha should change. Also says, Cham David, v'af bezman hazeh, and even nowadays, sheyesh lekol echad, everyone has beit kiseh beveito, a bathroom in his house. What there says bathroom? What words there mean bathroom?
Beit kiseh.
Beit kiseh. What does that mean? Beit, the house of
Chair.
kiseh, chair.
Yeah.
The house of the chair. Hebrew is beautiful in that it has no bad words in it. It has no dirty words. Whenever they're referring to something, they refer to it in a very suggestive fashion, but it's not overly suggestive. So, Beit HaKiseh.
Is that term used today as
Yeah.
bathroom?
Though mostly in Hebrew, they today say shirutim, which are like the service room,
Yeah.
or Beit Shimush, or the house that is used. But it's still the word in Hebrew. You don't have a word for.
So if you use beit kiseh, will you be laughed at?
It's a little bit old though. It's a little bit old. Beit HaKiseh. So it probably means you were taking classes at the Hebrew University or something.
Oh, so it shows your status.
Hebrew is also changing language.
Yeah.
I'm here, let's say, a year or 2. I come back to Israel, and the slang is a little bit different.
Say, I grew up in my house that when I say pack my suitcase, it's a le'eroz the mizvah, to pack it, to arrange it, Ariza is to wrap, to bundle something. And when I came to Israel in 2008, so I told my roommate that I'm going to pack my suitcase. And he said, who uses that word? So what do you mean? He says, we say lehamis et mizvada, which means to stuff the suitcase, load it, right? And it's funny because the finesse of Hebrew has gone down since those times. As more slang comes in, or less educated people come along, or whatever it is, Hebrew's a language like every other language.
Yeah, but you will be understood if you say Beit HaKiseh.
Yeah, you will be understood.
Yeah.
It's like the guy who got on the bus and he told the bus driver, "Kama mamon, how much mamon does it take me to get somewhere?" Now mamon, nobody use today. They use kesef. So the guy said 2 zuzim. Yeah.
Little in English, like if you say, I want to use the gentleman's room.
Right. Someone will understand what you're saying.
If you say that in America, you'd be laughed at.
I don't know. You'd be laughed at.
Well, people roll their eyes like,
The gentleman's room. Right. Right.
I told a woman, I called her a girl, and she was lashed at me. I translate from Hebrew, it's not the connotation.
Beit Kiseh b'Beit, everyone has their own echad. Everyone has their own bathroom. Ve'en tzarich lalechet, you don't need to go lemakom rachok, to a far place, kedei lehitpanot, in order to clear yourself. Yargil atzmo, a person should still accustom himself lehitpanot b'boker u've'erev, to check to go to the bathroom morning and evening. And then we come to the next halakha, which seems to be intrinsically connected with derech eretz, more than it is anything else. Okay. Lo yilech yechef, a person shall not walk barefoot, birshut harabim, publicly. Now, does the Shulchan Aruch say publicly? Not the Shulchan Aruch. Does the Ramah say publicly? No, he just says you should not walk barefoot. Rabbi David Yosef, after seeing a lot of commentaries, clearly comes to the conclusion that it means publicly. V'amru Chazal, and our rabbis tell us on Masechet Shabbat, Yimkor Adam, a person should rather sell korot beito, the foundation, the walls of his house, pillars of his house. V'iknen, he should buy min alayim leraglav, he should buy shoes for his feet. It's better to be homeless with shoes than to have a house and have no shoes. According to Chazal. It's very important to have shoes. There's a whole culture today, people who walk around barefoot, walk around almost barefoot. So there are shoes that is barefoot. That's what it is. It's nothing more than, just don't convince yourself that it's actually a shoe. Yeah, those aren't shoes. Those are barefoot. The varying levels and degrees of shoes, but
So what's the reason for that?
so we're going to do that in just a second. I actually want to spend some time on that. V'af bimkom shederech b'nei adam, and even in a place where the way of people is l'lechet yichefim, to walk barefoot, birshut harabim, publicly. There are countries, I guess, where people walk around barefoot, they don't wear shoes. Lo yelech yichef, you still should not walk barefoot. Umikol makom, in any case, beveito, in his house, reshay l'lechet yichef, you are allowed to walk barefoot. Maybe we'll take this halakha.
Allowed or not allowed?
You are allowed in your house. Let's take this halakha a little bit deeper. We're going to go through the birur halakha. We have a little bit of time. If you don't want to write down all the words or it's complicated, you can listen. But I suggest this is a good piece to know. It's the right side column on the bottom. Birur halakha, where the Yud Aleph is. Says Rabbi David Yosef, Hina Mishnah Bura. The Mishnah Bura written by the Chavetz Chaim, very nice. Katav, he writes, Shebimkomot ha'arav, in the lands of the Arabs, Shedarkan lech yichef, where their custom is to walk barefoot, Shari, it's mutar, it's permitted. Shari means permitted in Aramaic. So how is the Mishnah Bura understanding this prohibition of walking barefoot? Is it an absolute prohibition?
Depends on the place.
It depends on the place, meaning it's more of a social norm than it is an actual halakha. It could be that he associates this with tzniut, modesty, and if it's modest somewhere to walk without shoes, then that's okay. Or maybe he associates this with derech eretz, not looking like a homeless person, but in a place where everyone dresses like that, then that would be okay. So we're going to go through other reasons for this, because clearly Mishnah Bura, he says something, but does Rabbi David Yosef agree with him?
Well, I think
Does Rabbi David Yosef agree? The Mishnah Bura says where people walk barefoot, you're also allowed to walk barefoot. Does Rabbi David Yosef agree?
We don't know.
No, he disagrees. He disagrees. What does he say?
He says you have to...
You see that?
Even in a place.
The last line, V'af b'makom, and even in a place where people walk barefoot, you shouldn't walk barefoot. So clearly he disagrees with the Mishnah Bura. The question is why? That's what this is all about. Uvehaghot ish matzliach, And in the commentary of the Ish Matzliach, this is Rabbi, his name, this is important Sephardic Rabbi to know, Rabbi Matzliach Mazuz. He was the Rabbi of Jerba in Tunisia. His son or grandson is Morris Derry's wife's uncle.
Really?
Morris Derry's wife, Evelyn, her mother has a sister. That sister married Rabbi Mazuz. He's the chief Tunisian rabbi in Israel and Morocco and that whole style. He lives in Bnei Brak. He has a big yeshiva there. He's a very famous rabbi, a very close friend of Rabbi Ovadia Yosef. A very famous person in Israel.
Wow.
Rabbi Mazuz had a I don't know if it's his father or his grandfather, but there's a whole movement in the Sephardic world that follows him. The Ish Matzliach. There's a Sidur Ish Matzliach. Our Tikkun, the blue book that we use when we read here, is from the Ish Matzliach. He was an expert in Hebrew grammar. He was an incredible person. Jerba was a city, a little place in Tunisia that was very religious, extremely religious. And he was actually appointed, he was the Dayan, he was the chief judge there in Jerba. He had a Bedin. And he was appointed by the Muslims to be a Dayan in their courts as well. They were so impressed with his straightforwardness and his wit that they actually appointed him to be a judge in their courts also. And he, on his off hours, would rule Islamic law in an Islamic court.
So is he allowed to do that as a Jew?
It's kind of like, Rabbi Huda Halevy being an advisor to the king of Spain. You're in exile. This is what it is. It's interesting, right? Could he not? It's a great question. I don't have an answer to that question for you.
He served under Muslim Bedouin, under Saladin.
He served as a judge?
Yeah.
Oh, good. I didn't even know that. It could be that as long as it's not Jews who are coming to be judged there, and the laws don't go against morality or ethics, then he was able to have
a Christian court.
right.
Yeah.
I don't know. Was there even such a thing as a Christian court? I don't know that Christians have such a legal system as much as Jews and Muslims do. I don't know. Maybe the Christians do. Maybe they don't.
They just had the Inquisition.
just the Inquisition.
Exactly.
That's it. Rabbi Mazuz ended up ruling in one of his court cases against somebody, a Muslim person who murdered him, killed him for ruling against him, and and this is in Jerba, and he was murdered. He died as a martyr, a Jewish martyr. He was killed because he was Jewish and he ruled against this person. That seems to be the
ruling him.
At least that's what the tradition in the family goes. I have not researched it. I have not gone to check him out, but that seems to me what the story is about his end. So this is the Ish Matzliach. What someone did is he took all the writings of Rabbi Matzliach Mazuz and he actually applied them to the Mishnah Berurah, to the Ashkenazi comment of Shulchan Aruch, and has little notes. I have this set in my house. It's 6 volumes, and everything Mishnah Berurah says, it has the notes of Rabbi Mazuz on it. Also, the current Rabbi Mazuz, he also added his own views and opinions in there, as well as Rabbi Ovadia Yosef's views and things like that. So in his notes on the Mishnah Berurah, Chelek Aleph, in the first volume, Katav, he writes, Shenira, this appears to be Shezehu Ta'amosh LaRambam, that this is the reason of the Rambam, Shehishmit Din Ze B'chiburo, that he doesn't mention walking barefoot in his Mishneh Torah. The Shulchan Aruch says you should, he doesn't say it either, right? The Shulchan doesn't say it either. The Ramah says you shouldn't walk barefoot. And the Mishnah Berurah comments on it, but the Rambam doesn't mention it in the Mishneh Torah. He says this is the reason. What is the reason? Why doesn't the Rambam mention it?
Maybe it's okay in Arab lands.
He lived in a country where people walked barefoot, so why would he mention that you shouldn't walk barefoot? Reviot kama mekorot ma'ashas, and he brought a few places from Shas, shekama tanaim v'amoraim, that some of the authors of the Mishnah, the Talmud, hayu halchim yichefim b'rshut arabim, they walked barefoot in public. Ayin Sham, look there. V'ayin od b'sefer Or L'Tzion, and look also in the book Or L'Tzion Chelek Bet, in the second volume, on page Reish Ayin Zayin. The Or L'Tzion is also an interesting rabbi. He was a Sephardic rabbi who lived in the last generation. His name was Rabbi Ben Zion Abba Shaul. He was a giant of the Persian world. He was one of the great giants who came out of Iran. And he came to Israel. He was the Rosh Yeshiva of Palat Yosef, of the Sephardic Yeshiva in Israel. He was one of Rabbi Ovadia Yosef's close Rebbe, but also he was close enough in age that they were a little bit like colleagues. Rabbi Ben Zion Abba Shaul had a very short beard. It was famous. He was a Sephardic Rosh Yeshiva, very famous, with a very short beard. And so one of his students who had a big beard, he came to him and said, Rabbi, why do you have such a short beard? You're a very important rabbi. You should have a big beard like all the other ones. People don't think you're such a great rabbi. And he said, okay, I hear. And he kept giving his class. And the rabbi, but tell us, why don't you have such a long beard? And finally, Rabbi Mitzion Abba Shaul, he said, I'll tell you why I don't have such a long beard. He said, I prefer that when people come learn Torah from me, that they listen to me because what I'm saying makes sense, and not because I have a long beard. So he said, Rabbi, so does that mean that we should also shorten our beards? I didn't say that. and he finished the class. Okay. This rabbi came back a week later to Rabbi Mazuz and told him he was fired from his job. Said, why were you fired from your job as a rabbi? He said, because I wanted to be like you and I trimmed my beard. And they told me you don't have a long enough beard to be a rabbi, so they fired me. So Rabbi Mitzion, it was quiet. Clearly you're not saying something that's worth listening to, and they only kept you because of your beard. But he was a very big Baal Musar. He was very into the world has to work a certain way, and if they don't want to, I don't care, but I'm doing what I think is right anyways. And Rabbi Ovadia Yosef did pick up on a lot of his attitude. Rabbi Mitzion Abba Shaul, though, was a very different style of posek, and therefore was very different than the classic Sephardic style of halacha. And so we have his books, we study his books, but not always do we follow the writings of the Or L'Tzion. So he says also the Or L'Tzion agrees with Rabbi Mazuz, who agrees with the Mishnah Berurah, who reads this into the Rambam. The reason why it's not mentioned is because in a place where where people walk barefoot, you're allowed to walk barefoot also. Says Rabbi David Yosef, Ulam bat. Isn't it amazing to learn halakha? Isn't it amazing? That's something people, when it comes Shavuot tomorrow night, people, they learn it. All the Torah of the non-Jews in the whole world doesn't amount to one biru halakha over here. We have this and we have that opinion, and it works together and it matches it out. We should be very proud of what we have. Very special. And Jews who don't learn halakha, I don't know what excitement they have in their Judaism. Ulam bat, yesh lidchot harayot anah. You could push off these proofs. The Shema may be, which proofs? What is the Ish Mashiach saying? I found in the Talmud there were rabbis who walked barefoot, right? So how can you tell me you're not allowed to walk barefoot? So it says the Ulam Yesh Yitchod, you could push it off. The Shema Hata, maybe in those cases, Mayri B'Yom HaKippurim, maybe it was Yom HaKippurim. Or B'Tisha B'Av, or it was the night of Av. She'asurim B'Nilat HaSandal, that you're not allowed to wear shoes. And this is what the Maharsha writes in his commentary on the Talmud, that the reason the rabbis were walking barefoot, he understood those stories to be taking place either on Yom Kippur or on Tisha B'Av. Now some of you may be rolling your eyes and saying, that sounds exactly like that whole discussion about the kippah, that really there was a second kippah, and there was you're living in a world where you're wearing shoes, and now you're trying to read into the Talmud that it must be that everyone wore shoes except for Yom Kippur and Tisha B'Av, right? Instead of saying, no, some people didn't wear shoes. That's just the reality of that world which they lived in. Or he says, or maybe it was outside of the city. Like Rabbi Lev Chaim writes, that outside of a city, you're allowed to walk barefoot, because if the whole purpose is tzniut, is derech eretz, is that's the way people do it, so when people are not looking, so you don't have to walk with shoes on. Meaning they were at the beach. I guess that would be not really at the beach, but at the beach, it's a custom that even places where people wear shoes, at the beach or at the swimming pool, they're not wearing shoes. And therefore, you can also take off your shoes there. Now, to some, this may seem like a forced reading of the Talmud, but the Maharsha is interesting in that when he reads the Talmud, he automatically reads it as saying the reason they were walking barefoot was because it was either on one of these days, or they were in a place outside of town where a person is allowed to walk barefoot. Uvatamo, after the parentheses, it's the last narrow line. Yeah. Uvatamo shel ha-Mishnah Berurah, in the reasoning of the Mishnah Berurah, Efshar lomar, you could say the Svirale, that his opinion is the Tama havi mishum tzniut. The reason is because of modesty. Uvmakom shergilim lalechet kach, and in a place where people walk this way, shuv leika mishum tzniut. That in a place where everyone walks that way, there's no reason to be modest, because it's not considered immodest to walk around without shoes on. And this seems to be the opinion of Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, who says that the reason why the Mishnah Berurah says you don't have to wear shoes in a place where people don't wear shoes is because the Mishnah Berurah understands the only reason you don't walk barefoot is because it's not modest to do so. But if you live in a place where it is modest to do so, then you can walk barefoot. After these parentheses, V'harav hagaon Rav Aaron Simantov. Rabbi Aaron Simantov, b'sefer Netivot Chaim, in his book Netivot Chaim, here he notes, she'efshar, it's possible she'mishnah bura hanal, that the above Mishnah Bura, svira is of the opinion da'atam hu k'mo shekatav Rashi, that actually the reason you don't walk barefoot is found in Rashi. She'en l'chai bizui min ha'mehalech yechef b'shuk. You have nothing more degrading than a person who walks without shoes in the marketplace. Could be that Rashi understands that somebody who walks barefoot, it's such a disgraceful thing to do. It had nothing to do with modesty. Like, what are you, a schlepper? You don't dress nicely, you walk and your feet are dirty, you walk into people's houses. What kind of human being are you? And so says this Netivot Chaim, it's possible that the Mishnah Bara's reasoning is because he sides with Rashi. Rashi, who says the reason has nothing to do with tzniut, but more to do with it's a degrading, it's not derech eretz, it's not the right thing to do. Ulefi zeh, and according to this, page 35, b'makom shedarkam bekach, in a place where people do this, ein kan bizui, there's nothing degrading about it. You know, who was it that went to Iraq and they threw a shoe at him? It was one of our presidents. Yeah?
Yeah, Bush.
The Bush? So they threw a shoe at him. And that was a very big insult. And Americans went up in arms because someone threw a shoe at the president. But in certain countries, the culture is you throw a shoe at somebody, that's like, you're nothing to me, right? I don't know, America, you throw a shoe at somebody, he's going to think you're crazy. But it's not highly offensive. It's just, you're crazy, right? So, in a place where people always wear shoes and somebody's walking around barefoot, I mean, that's pretty dignified. Why are you walking around barefoot? You don't. But in a place where everyone's doing it, it's not degrading. I may think that it may be nicer for you to wear shoes, maybe more comfortable to wear shoes, but they don't have this notion, the Americans, and they have no notion that throwing a shoe means anything. And this is, it's a different understanding of this halakha. Aval, but, says Rabbi David Yosef, HaMaharsha b'chidushei agadot katav, da'atam hu mishum tzina. This is the Maharsha gives even a different reason. He says the reason is mishum tzina. What is tzina? Tzina?
Hate? No? Or
Tzina im tzadi. No. Tzina is cold.
Oh, cold? Oh, tzina.
Tzina. Because of the cold.
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 You got
Because a person could get sick from that. Or he's gonna get cold. It's like, when someone says, don't walk barefoot, you're gonna get a cold, and the people tell you that because they learn the Maharsha. The Maharsha says that.
As a disease. Yeah.
Not cold as a disease, cold as a temperature, but it could lead to all kinds of, get you sick or things like that. That's why you're not allowed to walk barefoot. According to the Maharsha, can you ever walk barefoot?
In Arab lands.
Maybe when it's warm, but it has nothing to do with where you are. It could be Arab lands are just warmer. I'm not convinced always that's the case, but he would have to do more with temperature than with societal norms. Right? Well, according to this, look at that. There's no difference in where you are. Rather, it's dependent if you're afraid you're going to get cold. Oh, now there's another reason. Gotta love this, right? Throw the arrow, what is called the dart, and then we come up with all the reasons for why we did it, right? The book Netivei Am writes on page 35, the ta'ama havi mishum nechashim ve'akravim. The reason is because of, what are nechashim? Snakes. Ve'akravim are? Scorpions. Umishum tzina, and because of the cold. And therefore, there's no leniency. Even in places where people walk barefoot, you still can't, because there may be snakes and scorpions. Meaning, it's because of danger. And you're not allowed to put yourself in a dangerous situation, regardless if everyone else is doing it. That actually might apply more in Arab lands and in other places, where you walk and there are snakes and scorpions.
There's all kinds of snakes and scorpions, including
right?
human ones.
No, things you might step on. But today, it's also dangerous. There's a piece of glass in the street. There's metal. Anyone who's ever got a hole in his tire knows. You drive over all kinds of stuff that if it made a hole in the tire, imagine what it could do to a person's foot. Right? A person has to be careful with these things.
I got one right. I got a puncture right here in the Chabad.
In the parking lot. So did I.
Chabad 19 parking lot.
No, but it's because there's stuff all over the place. And if someone breaks a bottle in the middle of the night, or someone drops something out of his car, you don't know what it is. Vayen lahagaon Rabbi Chaim Palaji. And look at the book of Rabbi Chaim Palaji, B'Sefer Ruach Chaim, in his book Ruach Chaim, he writes a different reason. And this is why I once told you that my opinion is even inside your house you shouldn't walk barefoot. But let's listen. Shekatav b'shem ha'makubalim. He writes in the name of the Kabbalists. Rabbi Chaim Palaji is a very special Kabbalist. He actually has a segula to do tomorrow for having children. There's a whole segula he has for someone who can't have children. He has a whole thing. But Chaim Palaji was one of the giants of Sfarad. His Rabbi was the Baal Chikrei Lev. He wrote a book called Chikrei Lev. And he proposed a very novel idea. He said that he wishes that we deleted half of the Siddur. And when Jews came for Shacharit, they would pray the morning blessings, Birkot Torah. They would start from Baruch She'amar. They pray all the way through till the end of Shemona Esrei, and they would go home. Because we have so many things we say, he said, that nobody ever has the proper intentions when they pray. It's an hour long. Who has prayed an hour long? That if we made a half an hour service that took all the bare essentials, everyone would be praying with kavanah. And he was about to do it, and then he didn't do it. So Rabbi Chaim Palaji says, Rabbi, why don't you do it? He says, I thought about it. He says, no one promises me that if I make the Siddur half an hour long, that anyone's going to pray with any intention either. I didn't receive any promise from anybody. And therefore, it's better they should pray an hour with no intention than half an hour with no intention. And he skipped that idea. But the idea was there. These are the camp very novel thinking, outside of the box thinking, Sephardic rabbis, that Rav Chaim Palaji and his Rabbi. Shekadav b'shem Mekubalim, he writes in the name of the Kabbalists, Ki arura ha'adama, because the earth, the land is cursed. V'hadores beraglo, and someone who steps with his foot, yechef, barefoot, al gabei karka, on actual earth, midabek betuma, he gets stuck to the tuma, to the impurity of the earth. The Kabbalistic notion that the earth is cursed. It's the reason why Kabbalists don't ever walk barefoot. It's the reason why Kabbalists always sit on something, they never sit on the ground. The whole idea of sitting on a pillow on Tisha B'Av, why not just sit on the floor? The idea of a pillow comes from the Kabbalists, who say you should never sit on the floor, because the floor is impure, the ground, the earth is bad. You should always put something separating between you and the ground that you're sitting on. Most of the time, you're never sitting on actual ground. The carpet, or you're even on a second floor, so you're sitting on someone else's head, right? But at the time that we do, I see people at the beach, they sit on the sand, or in a park, you sit on the grass. Those are times where, at least according to the Kabbalists, they would suggest you put down even a sheet, something, a paper towel, something, sit on something, not actually on the earth. You don't want this tumah getting stuck to you. Okay. And according to this, according to this reason, is there a difference between where you live? No, why not?
Because you're touching the ground, and it doesn't matter where.
Right, it doesn't make a difference where you are. You're not supposed to ever sit on the ground. At least according to the Kabbalists. So how are we doing now with walking barefoot? It's like the kippah, right? The farther you read, the worse it gets. Yeah.
You always told us to consider, the place and the rabbis, and it's important to know where they were. So maybe, Rashi was a vintner, so maybe, as a winemaker, maybe he just, was maybe they used, their feet to stomp the grapes and stuff. It's
well, he considers it a bad thing to walk barefoot.
Yeah, so maybe they thought, how could you, don't stain people's.
In France.
That's right.
Yeah.
So France is not a place that normally.
Oh, very nice. So here we are getting to societal difference. Yeah. You're right with the wine. That would be something they'd have to prove. That the people who have wineries consider walking barefoot not on grapes like a disgusting thing. How could you get those dirty? Right? You got to step with the grapes on it. Right? That's their world. But it could be the very simple level that Rashi lived in a place where nobody walked barefoot. Like we said by kippah, the reason why it seems to be the Sephardic rabbis mentioned it, but not as rigidly as the Ashkenazim, because they lived in a place where anyways people covered their head. So it wasn't such a big deal. They didn't have to force people to cover their head. Everybody was doing it anyways. It's like me writing a book on the halachot of why you have to wear a shirt. Of course, going to halakha you have to wear a shirt, but why should I tell you to wear a shirt? You live in a place where everybody wears shirts. Most people wear shirts. That's everybody. Sometimes I go places where people aren't wearing shirts, right? But that's their own. Today, if you have a shirt and shoes, then they definitely don't. There are places like that too. But Ulefize, Chayotze, and similar to this, Katav Beshut Maaseh Avraham, in the book Maaseh Avraham, he wrote something similar. And now this is the conclusion of Rabbi David Yosef. Ulefi kol hatamim hanal. According to all of these reasons, Yotzei comes out shebebeito, that in his house, shakarka merutzefet, that the floor is floored. Literally, it means the floor is covered. You don't live in a dirt house. It used to be. You used to build a house, and in the middle of the house was dirt. But nobody lives in a dirt house anymore. And he says, according to all of the reasons, I would say it's not good to ever walk barefoot outside, regardless of the place you live, says Rabbi David Yosef. What about inside of your house? Do you ever have earth in your house?
In the old days, they used to. In the old days, they used to have.
Even outside, it's concrete or asphalt or something.
Right, but let's stick in the house. In the house.
Now we have concrete slabs, and we've got flooring. We have
flooring.
Floor coverings. We have
How
carpet,
cold
wood.
is your floor? Forget if you have some like fancy marble floor or something like that. How cold is your floor, really? Your carpet in your house or the wood you're stepping on?
It's warmer than outside.
That doesn't apply, really. I was in somebody's house once in Yerushalayim that had a marble floor, and it was a heated floor.
Yeah, those are the best.
How do I know? Because I was sitting in the house and I stepped on the fire. I almost burned my face. I was like, "Whoa, what's going on here? Your house is on fire." He said, "No, it's just that's the way it's supposed to be." In the winter, it was cold. They would, not the winter. In the summer, they would cool it. That was the craziest thing I ever saw in my life.
That's the most expensive kind of heat there is. It's
Really?
considered the very top luxury heat
And
all
these
over
people,
the world. Yeah.
they bought their house for $1 million. It was an apartment. They were my neighbors, and they put in $900,000 of renovations into the house.
Whew. In Jerusalem?
And the house is the size of the shul. Like it's not like this room. It's not the size of some mansion, but
It's old
the
city.
old city life. So the outside it looks like some old city house. You come inside, I used to run Shabbatons there and all kinds of things there. So inside your house, yesh la'akel, there's room to be lenient to lechet yichef, to walk barefoot. The habechai gavna, because in these situations, en chashash mishum nechashim v'akavim. You don't have the fear of snakes or scorpions. Uvabayit shucham, and in a warm house, en lachush gam mishum tzina. You don't have to worry about the cold. V'chen en lachush mishum tzniut. You don't have to worry about tzniut, about modesty. Why? It's private. It's your house. Umishum bizayon, or because of degradation. Why don't you have to worry about being degrading fashion? In parentheses, mechmat sharabim nagim ken, because the majority of people they walk in their house barefoot. V'gam lo shayach tamu mekubalim. Says, and the reason of the mekubalim doesn't apply either. Mishum tumat ha'adama, because of the impurity of the earth. Sharei hikarka merutzefet, because this is actually floor. And let's skip all the next stuff until the last 4 lines, right before Siman Gimel. V'ayen od b'sever netivot ha'chayim sham. Look more in the words of Netivot Chaim there. Uv'divrei Adoni Avi Mori v'Rebi Maran HaRishon Tzion. My father, my teacher, my master, Rabbi Ovadia Yosef, the chief rabbi of Israel. Shehevi Achi Yedidi, that was brought down by my brother, my friend, Harav Gaon Rabbi Yitzchak Shlita, in his book Shearit Yosef. Who's Rabbi Yitzchak Shlita? His brother and his friend. That's the brother of Rabbi David Yosef, who's the son of Rabbi Ovadia Yosef. Rabbi Yitzchak is now the Sepharadic chief rabbi of Israel. So here he brought him as the author of a little book. Today,
It's a real brother.
he would mention him as the chief Sephardic rabbi of Israel. And I think that right now, we have finished Siman Bet. So you owe yourself a Mazal Tov. Siman Tov u'Mazal Tov u'Mazal Tov Siman Tov, Siman Tov u'Mazal Tov Siman Tov, Siman Tov u'Mazal Tov u'Mazal Tov Siman Tov Yelanu